what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Welcome to I Guess I'll Do It with Pat House. I am Pat House, and on this podcast I will talk to mostly comedians, but probably some musicians and other creative people as well about their early influences, what got them to where they are today, and when they had their I Guess I'll Do It moment where they decided to dive into their creative endeavor. So thank you for listening, and here we go. All right. Hello, and welcome to I Guess I'll Do It with Pat House, where I'm Pat House, and I will talk to comedians, some of my friends, some of my influences, and find out how they got into comedy and their I Guess I'll Do It moment where they decided they would step on stage and try it for the first time. I've been doing comedy for quite some time, and people still ask me all the time, how'd you get into it? So we all get into comedy for different reasons, and figured I would talk to as many of my favorite comedians and friends as I could to find out why they got into it. So thank you for listening. And I'm brand new to podcasting. I'll probably stutter. I'll probably slur my words here. Whatever. No different than a live show. I'll still fuck something up somehow. But I had this project on my mind for a little while. So thanks for listening. And hopefully it's entertaining. So being that this is episode 1, I should probably start with my story and how I got into comedy. I remember being drawn to laughter as a kid. I remember, I would watch Letterman and Leno and Saturday Night Live, and even though I didn't really quite understand the jokes or anything, I remember just being intrigued by people who were making people laugh professionally. I remember watching the comic relief specials in the 80s and 90s with Robin Williams, Billy Crystal, and Whoopi Goldberg. And even though I didn't understand anything the comedians were saying, I was just truly enthralled by the fact that there was one person standing on stage making people laugh. For whatever reason, as a kid, that always stood out to me. But one specific time, and this is a very random story, I was in Leavenworth, Kansas. I'm 13 years old, and I'm in Kansas with my grandmother to see some relatives that she hadn't seen in decades. I jerked off a lot that week, but that is a different story. So I'm the only person in the house under the age of 75 years old. It's just me and all these old people, and they would go to bed early. And one night I'm watching Letterman, and Stephen Wright was the comedian. And it was the first time where I watched a stand-up, understood everything, and laughed my balls off. I vividly remember as a 13-year-old watching Stephen Wright and being like, holy shit, that's awesome. So that was right before high school, and then in high school, I just got super into stand-up. Comedy Central Presents was a show where a million comics, a ton of which who are super, super successful now, all had a half-an-hour special. And around the same time, Last Comic Standing started. I watched a lot of that in high school as well. So by the time I'm 14, 15, I have a ton of comics I love. I would quote their jokes at the lunch table, in the cafeteria, and I would even write my own jokes, and I use that term very, very loosely, in my English notebook from freshman year. I just wrote ideas in that book randomly throughout the day here and there, and throughout high school, I carried that notebook around with me to jot random ideas and thoughts down, and then that became my first comedy notebook because I held on to that all throughout high school and then started to utilize that notebook for jokes when I really actually started to get on stage doing stand-up. All right, so I go to college, I go to Temple University, and this is a random side note. About a week before I started doing stand-up, I briefly met Bill Cosby on campus, and that's the whole story. It was literally, I said hey, he said hey, he got into a car on Broad Street, and then that was the end of that. It was a 2.5-second interaction. But this point in my life, I just got to college. Freshman year, I see live stand-up comedy for the first time. Some Philly comics, some local comics, but pretty much if there was a live stand-up show on campus, I was there. A lot of unknown comics at the time, but one show I saw in particular that stands out to this day was it was Jay Okerson, more on him in a second, my buddy Ray, also one of my favorite comics, and it was Michael Blackson, J.B. Smoove, and Kevin Hart, way before any of them had the success they all have today. That was a show called Comedy Explosion, and that was in the Alcove in Mitten Hall, I believe. Either way, it was in Mitten Hall on campus. But there was a specific show I saw, wasn't on campus. I saw a show called Comedy Central Live at the Tower Theater in Upper Darby, right outside Philadelphia. And that show was Dave Attell and Louis Black co-headlined. Mitch Hedberg was the middle, and Mike Birbiglia was the host. And I sat in the front row of the balcony, and I just kept thinking the entire time, I have to try stand-up. I just have to try it. There were 3,000 people here. I've never heard 3,000 people laughing. I've never felt an energy in the room like this. Every comic was crushing. And as much as I was, and as hard as I was laughing and loving every second, my mind just kept wandering to this spot where it was like, you just have to try this. You just have to try this one time. But I didn't know how or what to do or where to go until I saw Big J. Okerson perform on Temple's campus. He was hilarious. My roommate and I became obsessed with him, and he mentioned that he was from here. So after the show, I introduce myself. I go over. I say hello and everything, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I want to start doing comedy. You said you were from here. Where do I go? What do I do? Who do I talk to?" And he told me exactly where to go, exactly who to talk to, and then gave me his email address. He told me to go to the Laugh House, which was a comedy club on South Street, 221 South Street, and he told me to introduce myself to the legendary Wid, who is a phenomenal comic, and he was the host of the open mic nights at the Laugh House, which took place on Wednesdays. So about, a week and a half, 2 weeks after I had this conversation with Jay, I went to the Laugh House. My college roommate Jeff came with me. It was, I'm a stickler with most dates. This was October 13th, 2004. It was my very first time on stage. And it was also my first time in a comedy club. So, I don't know what to do. I arrive. There's a ton of comics just waiting in line to sign up. And I didn't know anything about it. But I sign up, and I'm walking around. It's my first time in a comedy club, and it's cool. There's old headshots on the walls. Like, I feel, like a new kind of energy. A lot of people were talking shop in the corner. I don't know anybody. They don't know me. And I don't even know if I'm going on stage tonight. I was told that the host, Wid, just has the list and picks a name at random, so you might get on, you might not. It's a random crapshoot. Just because you signed up second doesn't mean you're going second. Just because you signed up 25th doesn't mean you're going, in that spot either. So the show just started. A couple comics go on, and I'm just taking it all in. I'm looking around the room. I'm watching. I'm laughing. I'm looking at everybody. I'm probably like I'm watching tennis. My head's just going back and forth. And fourth, I remember that. I was number 4. 3 comics go on, and Wid just goes, "Pat House." And it's like, holy shit, that's me. All right, let's go. And that's it. That was my first time. And I ran up to the stage, and it was kind of a blur, to be honest with you. I got laughs. I remember getting laughs. But overall, it's kind of a blur. And I remember coming off stage with this, I hate to use the word euphoria, but it was like a rush like I never experienced it before. Like, holy shit, what was that feeling, and when can I do that again, It was truly something I've never experienced it before. But I do remember getting laughs, and that's what made me want to go back. I went back the next Wednesday, October 20th, and did, I think, probably the exact same set, and that got laughs as well. And like any other comic who gets off on the right foot, you're like, oh, wow, okay, I got this figured out. I know what I'm doing. I can take this to the next step. And then, the next couple sets, probably the next 7 weeks, I would only go in the Laugh House on Wednesdays. So I'm sure sets 3 through 10, I got my ass handed to me. I bombed for months after my first 2 sets. So around that time, I started to make some friends and find out about other stage time in the area. There was, there was bar open mics. There was other smaller comedy rooms. So after a couple months of just doing the Laugh House on Wednesdays, I was able to meet some people and branch out to the Philadelphia, South Jersey, Delaware area a little more. So yeah, I guess that's it for me. Looking at my clock now, this is about 11 and a half minutes. Might even edit this down a minute or two, cut some fat. But yeah, like I said, I just want to talk to comics about what got them into stand-up when they decided they would do it and what that first set was like. I want to keep this shit short. You know, we all have shit to do, myself included. Keeping it brief, which I hope to do with all my guests. You know, some podcasts are 2 and 3 hours. Don't want that at all. I'm all about the quick and forth. Which, you know, was odd doing this. It's so uncomfortable talking into a microphone by myself right here, because normally I'm at least on stage and get feedback, or with the other comics I'll be interviewing, we will have it back and forth. But, yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoy it, and thanks for listening.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.